Thank you very much. I'd like to invite the members of this first panel up onto the stage to join me. First of all, Ms. Magdalena Kozlowska, who is an independent educational consultant and transitions coach based at Unifying Counselling in Dubai. Also, Arpan Stephen, who is an e-learning expert in the College of Medicine and Medical Sciences at the Arabian Gulf University here in Bahrain. I'd also like to invite Harsha Srihari up onto the stage. Harsha is the founder and CEO of website WebMe, W.L.L, the Complete IT Solutions. And finally, I'd also like to invite onto stage Dr. Hussain Al-Arayedh, who is the Director of Accreditation and Licensing at the Higher Education Council in Bahrain. Dr. Hussain? Please take a seat, members of the panel. We'll just wait one moment so that Dr. Hussain can join us. While we're waiting...
Yeah, it's on.
It's on. Okay, I'd like to just get started with the panel. I'm sure that Dr. Hussain will join us on stage very, very shortly. And I think that what we'll do, first of all, is go to you, Ms. Magdalena, because you have some expertise in student admissions and counselling, and it will be very interesting to hear about that now. Can you tell us, how have technological advances impacted on the university counselling and admissions process?
Is it working?
That's
yeah,
working.
I think it's working. Thank you so much. I work as an independent educational consultant, and so therefore day in and day out, I work with students applying to universities globally. And I think technology, as it's been becoming more and more prevalent, especially I think with the rise of AI in the last 2 years, that's a big topic of discussion. And I think it's a little bit stressful, I think, for students who are worried that their applications are going to be read and assessed by AI. And whilst it is true that universities are using AI more and more, especially universities that get large quantities of applications, and it's just impossible to sift through. So what happens is that preliminary process is often aided by AI. There is research to suggest that when AI is used, it's able to predict student success at the university better than humans, who unfortunately, as was mentioned in one of the previous talks, are prone to human bias. It also allows for so I don't want to get into too much detail here, but especially in university admissions, like in the US, when there's a lot of documents, there's a lot of transcripts coming in globally, it allows for taking these transcripts and comparing them in a more unbiased and effective fashion. So I think that is the use of AI, but universities are saying that at the end, humans are still making the final decisions because, you know, there's only so much AI can do. So I think that's where I'll stop because I could kind of keep on going about virtual reality. I could keep going about the use of like the virtual reality tours, but I think we could sit here all afternoon.
It's really interesting, though. I mean, it's very interesting to hear you talking about how AI is being used in the university admissions process. I'd just like to invite Dr. Hussain onto stage. As I said before, Dr. Hussain is the Director of Accreditation and Licensing at the Higher Education Council in Bahrain. So welcome, Dr. Hussain.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lucy.
I think it'd be interesting at this juncture to hear from you, Ms. Harsha, because I think you also have some insights into how technological innovations are impacting higher education and career counselling for students. So perhaps following on from those comments, you could add some other insights.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Let's rewind 25 to 30 years. My question is to elders. I couldn't see much people here. Anyway, here, can you imagine how it is the career counseling or college admission at your time? Means who were your mentors or who were your career counselors at that time? Definitely it might be parents or teachers. But the last 10 years, means let's fast forward to today's tech world where technology has changed the game. There are vast opportunities. And I'm Harsha. Yeah, I want to introduce. It's a pleasure to be here with this amazing panel. And coming to the question, there are notable technological innovations these days happen, means learning management system, online portal, and VR and AR technology for immersive learning experiences, or big data analytics for the predictive learning for means career counselors. And when it comes to, and another one noticeable is social media platforms and networking platforms creating opportunities to students to connect with professionals and career opportunities creating. And learning management system also, learning management system streamlined course administrations, or it facilitates students to connect with the instructors, and it supports the learning system more efficiently in offline and online. So most of the universities and colleges currently using this learning management system, LMS. That is a technological innovation. And another one, adaptive learning in artificial intelligence, means many platforms available online. I can say some names are Smart Sparrow or Newton. They are using AI algorithms, using to students to creating these personalized learning based on students' strength or students' learning preferences or weakness. So it is very advantage in these days. And another one comes this one for the career counselors, it is helping this big data analytics. That is for predictive learning, means it creates more opportunities for career counselors. Because students can, based on the ranking or grades, and they can select the suitable colleges in the globally or locally with different location. By this data-driven technology is very effective in these days. Another one, AR and VR comes here. This virtual reality, this one helping for medical training or historical reconstruction, or this like architectural design. In this area, this virtual reality things is very important. These are some technological innovation these days happen. So students, they can use these things, and one of the main thing is career assessment tool. The career assessment tool, they help to students to discover themselves, means what is their hobbies, or what is their strength, or what is their weakness. Based on that, they can choose their academic course and they can succeed in their careers. Yeah, these are some of the technological innovations.
It's really fascinating to hear about how technology is impacting both the admissions process and then the student experience. And perhaps one example of this will be in medical education. And of course, we have an expert here on that, Mr. Arpan. So perhaps you could talk about how some of the latest technological innovations are impacting directly on the training and academic learning of those training to be doctors.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, well, really, I get really fascinated by technology. Everybody does. It's the era of technology, and I really thank technology to be there, because that is what has made us successfully pass through the COVID era without hindering the education setup, and especially in the School of Medicine, where there are a lot of practicals needed. It has played a very important role. But more than fascination, I really like technology if it solves a problem. And particular to the country that we live in, Bahrain specifically, all the medical institutions and the healthcare academic institutions, for the clinical phase, which is year 5 and 6, which is more of kind of an internship, it's rotation, clinical rotations in internal medicine, pediatrics, obs and gynae surgery, and so on. The institutions, if they do not have their own teaching hospital, which is the case here in Bahrain, they have to rely on external hospitals For us in the AGU, we rely on Salmania, we rely on KHUH, MKCC, and the primary healthcare centers. The problem and the challenge that we face is that these hospitals or clinical sites, as we call it, we do not have any control on them. We send our students to do rotations, but in the end, we have to wait till the end of their rotation to find out what they've learned. It's a problem because rotations in any medical institutions are never repeated. So if you are rotating, let's say you have a clinical rotation for internal medicine for 3 months, you just do that and you get over with it. It will never be repeated. There's no pass and fail. So it becomes very, very difficult to understand the learning of our students. And the way technology helped us is that we identified this problem and we created something called as an EGU e-log, which is a workflow in which the students log their experiences on a portal that has predefined problems and setups and everything for them. And they log their clinical experience, which as a workflow goes to their respective set of faculty, which approve or reject the log. And then that comes back both to the students, and then it also goes to each stakeholders of the teaching fraternity. Initially, what we got is we were surprised to get in 3 months for just one single rotation, 21,000 logs. And that's when our initial project was just to have these logs as e-logs. But then we started to realize that this is big data we're talking about. Why don't we build an engine that actually can analyze this data? And we built a dashboard which can actually identify every single activity that they're doing, like how many cases they've done, what kind of cases have they done, how much exposure has they done, and it is dynamic. So what happens is, while the sessions clinical rotations are going on, every stakeholder, whether it's the dean or the department head, they actually have a complete analytical data of every single student, what they're doing, and they can identify a gap. For example, there are 2 students, both the students are in the same clinical rotation, but they have different experiences. With this data, we find that one student has got more exposure to acute problems, and the other student has got more problems to chronic problems, and the third student has more exposure to the emergency problems. Now, these are 3 different learning that they've got for the same rotation, and mind you, they're going to give one single exam, but their learning experience has been different. So it allows the faculty and the department to actually, within that rotation, clear and make changes to the program and advise different faculty and supervisors to change the thing. This is a practical way where technology has really, really helped us. And this forms a portfolio for us, which helps us in accreditation. As you know, for medical institution, if you want to get a license, you need to produce these e-logs as part of the licensing that there is.
Thank you very much. Again, that's very interesting to hear how you're charting exactly what have been the individual learning experiences of each individual student, and then are able to tailor the future experiences that they have through the use of technology. So we've heard about all these different opportunities, but I guess that I would come to you now, Dr. Hussain, to say what kind of challenges does that bring for you as a regulator? For example, when it comes to the use of artificial intelligence, and similar technologies in higher education, what dangers do you see and how do you try to mitigate some of those risks?
Sure, thank you. It's fascinating to hear the experiences from the panel members on the panel members on the use and application of technologies in their respective fields. And I want to also bring into attention that the higher education institutions here in Bahrain are keen on bringing these technologies in the forefront of their forefront of their programs. So in my role here in the Higher Education Council, you can see a lot of interest in bringing, or let's say, upscaling the capacity for these top technologies and embedding them in their curriculum. However, as Mr. Arpan mentioned, in the Arabian Gulf University and other institutions, these have to be catered to solving the problems that are let's say, in their respective fields, whether it was medical sciences or engineering, or even now creative arts. And this is where our AI now is, generative AI is contributing. So it's long, I mean, everyone understands that technology, or let's say AI and augmented reality, virtual reality, were very important in gaming development, IT, perhaps engineering as well, of course engineering, and the expanding it into businesses, that's clear, into medical sciences. But having AI supporting creative arts, literature, and painting, and even music education, you can see the impact that this has. But exactly how can we embed these technologies in our context? And you heard about context from Dr. Amr just in the keynote before that. So perhaps the decision makers need to understand what are the capacity that they need to build with the introduction of technology in their institutions, actually not even in the education part, but also in the management part. Because this is where career counseling comes into action. Because if you understand where you can pinpoint the graduates to which fields, they can actually contribute a lot with this. And even from my previous experience as an educator in information technology, we can see that we also, in the information technology sector, education, face the challenge of having a plethora of technologies. Okay, so yesterday it was cloud computing, today it's artificial intelligence. What will happen next? So catching up with this and embedding it within the curriculum is also a very keen and very challenging issue.
Thank you very much. Do you have specific tips for educators to help prepare students for tech-driven careers?
Perhaps the most important part is that the educator and the management, or the key, let's say, decision makers, need to understand that capacity building needs to be done with the educators first. Okay, so before let's say it propagates to the students, educators need to be aware of these technologies, the management, the administrators, because if you don't have the infrastructure, the proper infrastructure, which is debatable in our region, even if you have fancy devices and machines, if you don't have the capability to utilize them to the best, then it won't. So that's the most important thing. Next thing will be the embedding it in the curriculum, into existing curriculum. Changing curriculums is a challenging issue, we know that. And it takes a lot of stages until it actually reaches to the level where you can provide it to students. So perhaps having a leaner and more faster approach to embedding these within a curriculum, trying to adapt let's say, a program plan to have these technologies embedded much faster is a very important issue. These are some of them.
Thank you very much. So following up in a similar way, actually, Ms. Magdalena, do you have tips for educators and students as they're applying to university? Again, knowing that we have this world of technology that they're having to encounter, what should they be doing differently than they might have done in the past?
Well, this kind of shows my age a little bit, because I think that students, yes, it's important, like you said, for the curriculum to kind of embrace technologies and give students possibilities to engage, to learn. But students also, they grow up with technology, so they almost like absorb it. I think that looking at the students I work with right now, obviously they use generative AI. I think in terms of university admissions, this is where the students and educators work with the students to support them in their choices, and it can be quite an overwhelming decision and quite an overwhelming process, especially that the landscape, this was also one of the things that was mentioned before, students get overwhelmed, especially with global applications. There are so many options, there are so many programs, there are so many countries even. So choosing something and just kind of going on the internet and looking at programs isn't sufficient. So for example, one of the things I've been using, and it's been a game changer, is a specialized platform like Unifrog, which allows a tailored experience. It gets all the information together and tailors it to the student's curriculum, to the student's interest, and it's sort of like a one-stop shop for creating university shortlists, for doing pre-career assessments like psychometric testing, matching students to careers, and then matching those careers to university programs that offer those majors around the world. So I think utilizing for educational institutions software and investing in that is one of the things that really makes the process easier. Going back to AI, because I kind of got stuck on that. Obviously, we talked about the fact that university admissions still require the human element, and at the end of the day, universities do look at student performance, but they also, especially in universities that take a more holistic approach to applications like the US, partly the UK. So they don't just look at grades, but they're also looking at personal statements, at extracurricular involvement, at students' contributions to community. There's only so much AI can do without the student losing their personal qualities that will make them stand out. So each university or even institutions such as College Board or UCAS, they have their own statements about use of generative AI for applications, but most of them say that using it to sort of brainstorm ideas and to maybe structure unstructured thoughts is something students can do. But using it just, and I see it happen, students don't really know what to write, they sit in front of a blank piece of paper, and here they have this amazing tool that suddenly just generates a page with all this information. But obviously that information is generic, and it will not help them get into the university of their choice. So even if they use it, they still have to sit, review, and add their own personal elements to it.
So AI is a good starting point, but it doesn't help you stand out from the crowd because
Yes.
everybody's got access to it, essentially.
Yeah, and it all then sounds the same, but I think thinking about what you said, also allowing students at school, for example, to learn, because there's no chance that we're not gonna embrace it. So I think teaching students, okay, how do I input data? How do I kind of put my ideas into AI and then use it as a support system rather than something that's going to think for me.
Yeah, it doesn't provide a finished project. It's a tool, and like
Yeah,
every tool,
exactly.
it's how well you use it that determines the outcome. That's really interesting. Could we talk about that in relation to medical education specifically? Like, how would you be advising students to prepare themselves for medical education and these new uses of technology?
Right. Specifically looking at AI, it's not a new term, and I won't say it's in its infancy, but it has not reached the mark yet, right? The most interesting field which I like is generative AI. And one of the things that we need to realize is that even AI is learning with whatever data is being fed directly into it. And again, especially for a medical curriculum which is preset with all the pedagogical activities, which is mostly professional activities, it is very, very hard to incorporate AI or AR as a technology. But let me give you an example how it actually practically benefited the students. Specifically for GCC and the Middle East, because of the regional and religious bounds, our male students are at bias of getting exposed to female anatomy during their education. And that is right, that is acceptable. But this is also a challenge because when they do become doctors, how would they practice, or how would they, in case there's an emergency case, and then it gets really difficult. And this was one of the things that was brought in by our Students' Council, that this is unfair with this new era coming in, because most of the students that are interning do not just get jobs here. They would go for USMLEs, probably do their residency abroad, and then they find themselves in a scoop where they're not able to, when they ask, do you have any exposure, let's say for a childbirth delivery, and they will be like, no. So what we did is, it was a huge investment. We got something called as Lucina AR, which is a high fidelity mannequin that uses both AI and AR to teach this concept. that mannequin can actually respond to you based on AI, which is a lot of data that is fed. It can simulate fever. It has fully developed artificial lungs. It can respond to your questions. And then when you use HoloLens, this is one of the best features that was put in. If you use Microsoft HoloLens, you can actually see through the womb, through the skin, and see how the baby is moving when you're trying to do a delivery. And it can train you on complicated situations like shoulder dystocia or breech position and everything, which not only solves the bias that the male students have here, but also is a medical marvel where anywhere you talk about US, none of the students will have exposure to this unless, you don't see what happens inside the womb when you're delivering a baby. But this helps. So this is, again, a problem solver. Our biggest challenge is still the faculty practical experience. They think AI is a hula, we're good with whatever we are teaching, we're okay, why do we incorporate AI, and how does it help? But I recently did a certification on generative AI by Google in collaboration with MIT, and trust me, I learned a lot. And what we have done is, our president, he's a new president, he's very, he encourages people to do this. So we're organizing a training session on how to write proper prompts in AI engines to be able to get the response. So basically, or whatever we have done in training, our main job is not educating the students. They're tech savvy already. They know AI in and out. And some of them, they're already trained on AI as well. But the main challenge is to equip, as you said, to equip our faculty and convince them how to use it better. And it's still an ongoing process. It's a process, it's not an event, so it's a whole process which will take some time. But I think everybody, every institution of every paradigm is moving towards it, be it engineering, be it medicine, be it cultural arts. Everybody is moving and they have to move.
So there's some real common threads here about us as educators, the students themselves as well, really upskilling their use of AI. I guess AI, you can think of it like a pencil. We can all make a mark with a pencil. Even a 1-year-old can make a mark with a pencil. But actually to be able to draw a beautiful picture takes years and years of training. And it's the same with the AI tools that we have. We can all generate something from ChatGPT, and with a poor prompt, you get rubbish in, rubbish out. But that training that you're offering to your educators is enabling them to become like the Picassos of ChatGPT, like to really knowing and to use it in a highly skilled way. That's really, really interesting. It's interesting there's these commonalities. Ms. Harsha, maybe I could ask you as well. You're the CEO of a technology-based company. When we're thinking beyond education to future careers in technology, what advice would you have for students now? What skills should they be looking to develop so that they can go into technology-driven careers?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Yeah. First of all, let me tell opportunities. What are the job opportunities available? The demand of artificial intelligence and information technology has no bounds. We don't have any doubt about it. And here, when it comes in the IT professional, the skills like programming or data analytics skills and machine learning, artificial intelligence, these are the trending in the job market. And when it comes to, when we take the Bahrain, banking and fintech are the pillars of the Bahrain economy. So there are also many job opportunities available based on the cyber security, cloud computing, and programming itself, Python or Java, artificial intelligence and all. These are all technical skills. Yeah. When it comes to soft skills, along with these technical skills, for the job opportunity, the client means students or candidates should have the soft skills. Also soft skills like communication or problem solving or teamwork. Means especially like us, when employers looking for candidate, we are looking at these soft skills like who can work with means a diverse team, or who can explain complex idea to a means non-technical stakeholder. These are very important. And when it comes to IT, here this adaptability or flexibility means we have to stay always updated. Because here in IT, always tools or methodology or framework constantly emerging. So we have to means IT professional who is always updated, there is opportunity for them. Yeah, that's the point. And another one, all the work we need the work ethics. But for the IT professional, this work ethics is a very important quality. This technology era, because what I want to say is be conscious about your services or product, how it is impacting to the society. So keep the work ethics always. In the technology era, this is the challenge we are facing now. And yeah, these are the soft skills and technical skills needed for the career, and these are the job opportunities available in the market based on the IT. Yeah, that's it.
That's really interesting to hear about those other skills that are coming to get more and more importance because of the use that we're making of technology. I'd like to invite people in the audience now, if you have any questions to ask to this illustrious panel, this is really now your chance. So if you're a student or an educator or a leader in education, if you have any questions about the use of technology, either in higher education or in careers or in career counselling, this is your opportunity. Does anyone in the audience have a question? Any questions? Oh, yes. We can get a microphone up to you. Don't worry, it'll probably be hard to shout from there. Yeah, we'll share.
Thank you. I'd like to ask about educational content. What, by your opinion, will happen with it? How it will change during development of technology using ChatGPT and something like that?
Thank you so much. Who would like to have a...
Can we get a
could you have the
question,
question
please,
one
again?
more
'Cause
time?
the speakers are not facing us, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, artificial intelligence, what will happen, by your opinion, with educational content? You discussed what will happen in different aspects of education, but especially content.
The content.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's going to happen to educational content as a result of these new advances? Who wants to go first? Dr. Hussain.
So the question is, what will happen to educational content? I think the educational content varies based on the field itself. The trick is, where do you embed artificial intelligence? Where do you build it? Because only the experts in the field itself can answer that. So perhaps if you go to businesses, if you go to medical science, if you go to creative arts, okay, if the educators are aware of the capabilities of generative AI, and in the near future, general AI, or what they call as artificial general intelligence, who can answer that? It's the experts in the field itself. One issue that you might consider, or you can think about, is the ethical aspects of embedding AI. We were just talking about, just mentioning this point. So the idea is that who takes credit for what was generated? Is it the student or the educator or the admin, or that? That needs to be regulated to some extent. But the experts in each field will be able to understand and know where, at least that's my point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do others want to add? Of course.
Is it on? Okay. I just wanted to add one thing, and this is just an example. One of my roles is also, I work as an examiner and moderator for the International Baccalaureate program in the area of psychology. And I've done this since 2007, and I see how the curriculum has changed over time, embedding so they've added a impact of technology on cognitive processes, for example. So I think kind of curriculums that are moving along with how technology impacts humans, like you said, in different fields. I'm giving you an example of psychology because that's what I know. But it takes a lot of work to change a whole curriculum. So sometimes it's a little bit of a slow and tedious process, but I can see in education that new units are being added and they address new research in the field.
It's a really fascinating question. I'm in teacher education, and the role of technology is just getting more and more important in teacher education itself, as to how do we prepare teachers to prepare students to be able to use technologies that haven't even been invented yet, and giving them the confidence and the skills to encounter new technologies that we cannot yet train them for. So it's a very, very interesting question. Does anyone else have a question that they'd like to ask to one of the panel? Whilst people are thinking, I do have a question. I wish this to all of you. Are you optimistic about this educational future, or do you have worries and concerns that we're not at present managing these changes as well as we could? Are you optimists or worriers at the moment in relation to all these technological advances which are so rapid? Dr. Hussain.
I have a very short answer. Short answer. Optimist, but very cautious. Okay.
Okay, can you elaborate on why?
What you mentioned about the soft skills, this is what's lacking right now. So yeah, students are tech savvy, we all mentioned that. But okay, what is the underlying ethical and morals that these students who are going to be decision makers and in the work field, okay, in the next few years, what do they think about, how do they treat what is generated from artificial intelligence and from the data that is being generated every day? So they can see trends in historical data that most decision makers at this stage still can't see in a very long, let's say from many years ago. So understanding how the trends impact what will come next is a very important issue. So the idea is that, yes, I'm optimistic with what the capabilities of technology are, but graduates need to understand, okay, what can be generated and how to utilize it for the better good. That's a much longer answer.
Thank you.
We have to be very optimistic, but the thing is we need to realize that the way technology, specifically AI, is rapidly gaining context and is improving, the same rate by which we are accepting is not that fast. So when I talk about, our staff trying to we're trying to get everybody onto the track, I think there's still a huge gap where, the pace at which we are learning technology is very slow as, the place at which, it's moving away. So there should be a point where everybody needs to accept the fact that we have to incorporate AI in whatever way possible.
Okay, thank you. And
Yeah, I agree with them. I'm also optimistic about it. And here the world is changing very fast, so we have to move on with and be conscious, as he said, be conscious and keep that work ethics. So otherwise there is no challenge. If you are using it in a positive way, then it is very essential, and it help us to, in education sector as well, it help us to take the full potential of the individuals. So I'm optimistic.
thank you. Magdalena?
I think I'm going to say also cautiously optimistic. The example for me that comes to mind is, again, from college admissions and the extreme popularity, for example, of students applying to computer science. So as one of my roles, I also work with ADEC, which is the Abu Dhabi Department of Education and Knowledge, and we support Emirati students applying to global universities. And they have a list of pre-approved majors based on what the UAE's workforce needs. And what happens is that they took computer science off the list of ADEC majors because it was just too many students applying. And one of the things that we're seeing is that technology is developing at such a rate that the university curriculum isn't kind of catching up. So it's almost like students that want to work in AI or computer science, there's a question of, do they really need to go to university, or does it make more sense for them to do very nano degrees, very specialized small programs that equip them with very niche skills? So I don't know if that's optimistic or pessimistic, but it's one of the examples that came to my mind when you asked the question.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there's a real risk that we're equipping students, but with skills that are becoming rapidly obsolete. So, we think that we've taught them to do something very effective, and then before they even hit the job market, it's already yesterday's news and it's irrelevant. Does anyone else have any questions? No, then I'd like to ask each of our panelists to offer your final thoughts on this topic. So again, we'll go starting perhaps with yourself, Ms. Harsha, your final thoughts on the use of technology in higher education and career counselling.
By leveraging technology on a higher education or in career counseling, it helps to it means access more learning resources or in the decision making process by using these big data analytics, and actually it helps individuals to unlock their full potential and pursue their passion and succeed means to make success in their career. So as a way, this is very important. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. Mr. Arpan.
Right. So as we discussed, we need to realize that AI is actually the future. We've already started talking about concepts, and there's a terminology in Bahrain that we have used, even with Ministry of Health, called future doctors. And they will not be future doctors by going and doing residency abroad in the West. They should be future doctors and trained here. And I think every educational institution should instill a program on AI, which we started this year. So it might surprise you, but at College of Medicine, the first year, we have a subject called computer science. We're training medical doctors on computer science and specifically on generative AI. And how can, for example, if they have to work on their research or on their projects or on any document that they have to present, because we do problem-based learning. So we are not a lecture-based institution. We do problem-based learning where students are put into a problem, and then whatever learning needs are identified, they would go back home, research on their own, and come and present. So a tutor merely acts as a facilitator and not as someone who's going to give lectures. So 90% of our teaching happens there. So the way we are incorporating AI, and the way I suggest everybody should, every institution should, is probably training at one point the faculty on how to adapt to AI, probably monitor and should be aware of how to find out if any student is using AI tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and so on to write projects. And at the same time, we should also be training the students in case AI, as I say, the AI tool like ChatGPT, and they're not bad, Even if you're going into that, you're actually going for some research and you're going to pull out some information because you have to present it. So yes, you did get ready-made information, but when you're presenting it, you do know what you're going. So it's just a faster process of getting information. So we help the students enable to write the right prompt for them to be able to get the right answers that they're looking for. So the last point that, it's a fact, it's a truth. We have to adapt to it. There's no getting out of it. If you don't go through it, you'll be out of the race. So.
Thank you.
So I'm going to add to what you said, that coming from a more psychological background, I completely agree. There's no escaping it. It's going to be used. It's part of reality, and it can be very helpful. But I think it's important for educational institutions as different technologies are incorporated, from AI to, hybrid learning to virtual university tours, to kind of keep that balance with the soft skills and the human element, because at the end of the day, even if students are very efficient at using technologies, they're still going to have to, in the future, regulate their own emotions, work on teams, lead teams, function in a community. So I think for institutions to remember to keep elements of soft skills training, I don't know, leadership development, psychosocial learning.
There has to be the two things going hand in hand, yeah? Otherwise, one's dragging us perhaps in the wrong direction. Thank you. And finally, Dr. Hussain.
I think I echo every comment mentioned right now, and just say that to the decision makers to apply some regulations, to monitor, to apply these kinds of, let's call them, advices, and based on their expertise, and be sure that the application of these technologies and the embedding them happens within a proper regulatory framework. Otherwise, doing it without any kind of oversight, or let's say ensuring that the management are aware of these additions needs to be approved and ensure that they are within the, let's say, the framework of the institution or the government agency or whatever. That's it.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to thank the four panelists before us, Dr. Hussain Al-Arayedh, HARSHA SREEHARI, Arpan Stephen, and Magdalena Kozlowska, for sharing your expertise and your insights with everyone here today. And thank you very much to the audience for being here and listening to these very, very important topics. Thank you. Thank you.